A debt-ridden, down-on-his-luck bum is hounded by loan sharks. When things with money reach a breaking point, our dogged protagonist gets involved in games of all kinds for insane sums of money. Life-changing amounts. In these games, after getting on a ship, he plays twisted versions of common childhood pastimes where his life gets put on the line. If he ever makes any friends or allies, they either die or betray him. In a tension-filled adventure through game after game, games that only exist for the sake of entertaining the most elite of the elite, a mirror is simultaneously held up against the economic state of society, critiquing and criticizing the role capitalism plays in our world. And at the end of it all, turns out some old asshole was the one pulling the strings. Now, I'm going to do the incredibly generic video essay thing and ask you, which show am I talking about? Kaiji or Squid Game? These shows are far from the only ones to have similar conceits of playing life-risking games for a specific goal, or of doing random bullshit specifically for the sake of entertaining insanely rich assholes. But the similarities beyond their core concepts are hard to ignore. I could go on and on about even just the surface level similarities, and I did, like 2 seconds ago. Thanks for watching. So what's actually the deal with each of these shows? Described in a compartmentalized way that actually makes sense, I mean. Kaiji Ultimate Survivor follows Kaiji Ito, a 20-something gambling addict that hasn't worked in months that finds himself on the wrong end of a debt. That is, he owes one, in case that wasn't obvious. After someone he acted as a guarantor for ran out on some loan sharks, it's up to Kaiji to be exploited for money. And also entertainment, which is how he ends up on a gambling ship, because people are very normal about things in this show all the time. On this ship, he plays a version of rock, paper, scissors that limits the use of rock, paper, and scissors to 4 times each. After some intense mind games and a lot of sound effects and crying,
金こいつが愛子の約束を裏切って自分の行く末を委ねちまったんだ
He manages to make it off the ship, but he remains poor due to sacrificing all of his possible earnings to save someone else. Another opportunity arises to earn insane amounts of money, and he does end up taking it, yet again. Here, he becomes a part of the steel frame crossing, where he and a handful of others have to balance atop steel beams from a high place and make it across. Pushing is encouraged and appreciated. Not by the people getting pushed, but by the rich people watching them. Kaiji ultimately fails this game. When he refuses to push someone in front of him to progress, he stumbles and ends up touching the beam with his hands, which is a disqualification. Then some more gambling happens, but those are the 2 main story aspects I wanted to discuss for the purposes of this video. Squid Game, on the other hand, follows Gi-hun, a 40-something divorcee that's in pretty desperate need of money. His daughter is moving away to America, his mother has diabetes and can't afford hospital care, and he is also hounded by loan sharks that want his body and stuff, but not even in a sexy way. Or maybe in a sexy way if you like nose stuff.
피맛도 좋던데 한 사발 받아다가 오늘 밤 선짓국이나 끓여 먹어.
After he gets the shit slapped out of him by some handsome dude in a suit, he gets invited to a game. There, he and many others like him must participate in a series of lethal games, wherein every death adds to the final money pool. Red light, green light start off the set before they move on to sugar honeycombs, tug of war, marble, the heist. This is basically just Kaiji Steel Frame Crossing, and Squid Game as it was described in the first episode. Gi-hun ends up walking away from these insanely deadly games with a fuck ton of money, but also with a fuck ton of depression. Kaiji is much more of a long runner than Squid Game, which makes sense because Kaiji started out in 1996 and Squid Game came out this year. For the sake of this video essay, I'll just be focusing on Kaiji's first season, which covered the first manga arc, and Squid Game's only season. So what else is similar between these 2 shows, besides just their core concepts? Concepts that are found in tons of other shows, books, and movies, no less. Well, simply put, There's just more things that bring them closer together to one another and farther apart from other similar kinds of stories. For one, they're both relatively grounded. These stories don't take place in a hypothetical future or alternate society or some supernatural plane of existence like a high school. Instead, they take place in what is a pretty straightforward representation of the world we, ourselves, live in. This makes the portrayals of the situation of our main characters stark and more explicitly evocative of real-life poverty, though Kaiji trends towards presenting these situations in a more humorous manner than Squid Game tends to. This isn't to say that other similar stories aren't meant to be representative or allegorical in nature, though. This is just highlighting the role that these similar settings between Kaiji and Squid Game play. Note that Kaiji came at the heels of Japan's bubble economy bursting, and Squid Game followed up on COVID doing its thing. Another similarity is the use of familiar games and ideas being explicitly twisted into high-stakes competitions. This goes back around to the idea of being evocative of our own society as it is. Kaiji most notably has rock, paper, scissors, while Squid Game has games like red light, green light, and tug of war. The conceit of having the games being such common ones, or otherwise based on such common ones that nearly everyone will know and be familiar with, plays into how the competitions in both are being touted as fair by the people organizing them. These games are presented as equal opportunities for all to escape their debts, but this perceived fairness is also juxtaposed in direct contrast against how fucked up and not actually that fair these competitions are. So what's actually different between them? There's of course the obvious. One is live action, the other is animated. Shocking, I know. Well, right off the bat, Squid Game is a lot more character focused, while Kaiji is a lot more about following the epic highs and lows of the tensions in the games that are being played. This distinction is clear even in just the way their respective plot progressions are structured. Kaiji spends episodes upon episodes dedicated to a single game, focusing on digging deep into the psychology and strategy of the characters involved, the real meat of it. The author of the original manga, Fukumoto, is known for this. One of his other works, Akagi, spends nearly half of its entire runtime on one single game of Mahjong. So, it's kind of a lot. Generally, as a protagonist, Kaiji spends a lot of the runtime just thinking about what to do next. And it fucking rules. On the other hand, Squid Game spends a lot more time on the character and relationships of the main cast of contestants, exploring how the dynamics are constantly shifting when playing a life or death, all or nothing series of games. Squid Game also has a series-long subplot involving the intricacies of running the Squid Game behind the scenes, and the attempts made to uncover what's really going on by the resident dick. The inclusion of this subplot in Squid Game helps emphasize the more character-focused nature that it has when compared to Kaiji. Kaiji is so much more focused on the going-ons of the games the protagonist plays that there's no room for going into detail on all that behind-the-scenes stuff. Unless you want to watch or read the spin-offs. And I did, by the way, in case you were wondering. While the games in Squid Game are horrific and riddled with tension, it's ultimately more about the people involved. Too long didn't read, or didn't watch, or didn't hear, whatever. The big difference between the two and how the games in each are respectively played is the weight placed on strategy versus character. That's not to say Kaiji doesn't care about its characters at all, though. Or that Squid Game doesn't care about strategy. Going back for a second to what's similar between the two, it would be remiss of me to overlook the protagonists themselves. Like with many other aspects of these two shows, there's the lion's share of both similarities and differences. They're both broke and desperate, but Gi-hun has a daughter and lives with his mother, while Kaiji lives alone and explicitly has a gambling addiction, which plays a larger role in the themes of Kaiji itself that aren't necessarily present in Squid Game, but that's for another time. Something consistently similar between the two is the crafty ways in which they get out of some of their situations, although this applies more to Kaiji than to Gi-hun, simply due to the aforementioned strategy versus character thing. For example, when Gi-hun licks his honeycomb or when Kaiji hoards cards and rock, paper, scissors, well, that's pretty crafty. Having to figure out these unique ways of getting out of their situations, whether it's plans they come up with themselves or plans that their peers come up with, is what puts the thrill in thriller, and also what puts the word thriller under their genres if you Google them. But that's not all that makes these underdog protagonists similar. There is also their kindness. The idea of compassion is a particularly important one in Squid Game. An act of compassion is what spurs Gi-hun back into taking control of his life after the traumatizing events of the game he played, and he frequently acts based on kindness and out of care for others. He shares food, he gives out his clothes, and he picks up people's glasses poorly. This kindness is in contrast to his foil, Sang-woo, as well, who similarly does nice things for others, particularly Ali, before the differences in their mindsets, especially with regards to the game, send them off in very different directions as the show progresses. For Kaiji, his kindness is most notable during the steel frame crossing, wherein Kaiji is confronted with the choice between pushing or not pushing someone in front of him in order to avoid grievous injury and for the chance to make the money he is so desperate for. He psychs himself up for the act, steeling himself, only to ultimately realize that he can't do it, that no matter what, he won't push the person in front of him. He won't take advantage of someone else for his own sake the way so many others have, in particular those above him in class and with infinitely more money than he. There is also the moment at the end of Restricted Rock, Paper, Scissors where he sacrifices all of his possible earnings to save someone else. Gi-hun similarly does not end up making the choice to win the final game. No matter what, he does not want to be the one walking away if it means he walks away alone. Sang-woo's role as Gi-hun's foil also becomes emphasized during this final game, as he makes the choice to kill himself, arguably a sacrifice, and arguably a kindness, so that Gi-hun can take the money. So all that violence, death, and killing can at least mean something to someone. The compassion and kindness of Kaiji and Gi-hun is ultimately a striking contrast against the selfishness of those around them, most particularly those who run and organize the games that these protagonists play. So there were a few reasons I wanted to write this essay. Mainly, I just wanted to take the opportunity to compare and contrast two pieces of media I really enjoyed and just share my thoughts on them, because I guess I didn't get enough of that in high school. I also just wanted to see if I could maybe get anyone to watch Kaiji with my whole wide audience of 0. Because while everyone and their mother has seen Squid Game, Kaiji doesn't even have an official English dub. But its spin-off does? That's weird, right? Why does the spin-off have a dub but the main series doesn't? The spin-off has scenes straight from the main show and they dubbed those. I'm not going to pretend like I understand the logistics of anime dubbing. That's weird, right? I know I said like 2 seconds ago that I made this video because I just wanted to share my thoughts, but I'd also love for this to turn into a discussion. If anyone has any thoughts on Squid Game, Kaiji, how they differ and how they resemble one another, or anything else, I'd love to hear it. Comment down below, and if you like this video, feel free to, do that. Or not do that. I'm not the boss of you. Ultimately, at the end of the day, both shorts explore and, more importantly, critique themes and ideas surrounding capitalism while also being engaging, interesting, and well-executed thrillers in their own rights, and I greatly enjoyed both. They're still both commercialized forms of entertainment, so they're not like the most revolutionary things coming out or anything, but still, important ideas to spread regardless. Anyway, does anyone want to buy a Squid Game Funko? I would recommend a fan of one of these shows the other, without a doubt. And like I said, I think it'd be cool if I could get even one new person to check out Kaiji, so it's kind of counterintuitive that there are so many spoilers in this video, but whatever. There's still an entire second season and a still ongoing manga, so... Plus, there's still a lot of things that I still didn't talk about, even just from season 1 of Kaiji alone. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. I love talking too much about things, and I hope to keep talking too much about things, so if that interests you, feel free to do that thing you do if you like my stuff. That's right. So...